All right, you know what? Let's just get straight to the point. Because you know from watching my channel that it's not only possible to save your marriage when your wife wants a divorce, but it happens every single day in our program.
So the divorce stuff, we had a trial separation drawn up, all that stuff's gone. Back to both of us 100% committed to the relationship.
Our trust is rebuilt. We're spending time together. We're going on dates together. It is 100 times better than it was even before.
She looked at me. She goes, I just love you. She goes, I'm proud you're mine. I'm so happy that you're mine. And just a few short months back, she was ready to walk out of our house, walk away from this marriage. She'd already filed the papers.
Not only do you know it's possible, but you know by watching this video, all you need are the correct proven steps in the right order. But there's a giant roadblock in the way that you think you have no control over. How to change your mind. And that's where most men get stuck because no one ever taught you how to actually change a woman's mind. What actions actually cause her to want to be with you and which actions push her further away? Those behaviors that have her look at you and just change her mind and say, oh my gosh, he is the guy I fell in love with. I want to be loyal to him for life. So let me ask you, do you really believe your wife's mind is already made up? Or do you think there's an opportunity to actually change her mind about the marriage? Because after today, you'll have no excuses left. Now here's the truth. Women don't change their minds through arguments, through begging, or logical evaluations. They change their mind when they feel completely emotionally safe with the man they're with. I mean, can you imagine the day where a guy is just like, hey, you know what? Well, what if you saw it this way? What if you stayed with me for these reasons? And the wife's like, you know what? I never actually thought of it that way. You know what? I'm going to change the way I feel about you now because you convinced me with your words. I'm sorry, but it's so ridiculous when you think of it like that, isn't it? So in this video, I'm going to break down the psychology on how women actually change their minds, the hidden paradox that kills men's chances when they try to convince her, and the step-by-step process of becoming a man of influence, what we call the apex man in our program. So she naturally just reconsiders divorce without forcing it. These principles go in order. So you have to stick around to really know exactly what to do in that order, okay? So the first principle is how to actually change a woman's mind. Most men miss this, but you cannot change her emotions by shifting her logic. Now, Daniel Kahneman is a Nobel Prize winning psychologist who proved in his book, Thinking Fast and Slow, he showed that humans use two types of systems of thinking. System one is the fast, emotional, instinctive drive, okay? It is extremely fast thinking. There's no process. It's just instinctual, okay? System two is slow. It's logical and analytical. Now, here's the key that you must understand. System one always goes first. It fires first, okay? Which means before your wife decides about how to divorce logically, she already feels whether or not she's being with you is safe, attractive, or draining to her. Her logic then justifies what she's already feeling. So if you're trying to change her mind with arguments, explanations, or problem solving, you're aiming at the wrong system. You're speaking to system two, while system one has already slammed the door shut on you. And then Robert Cialdini, a psychologist as well, who wrote the book Influence, backs this up. He found that people rarely change from pure logic. They change only when one of 6 psychological triggers, or all 6, are pulled. Things like consistency, social proof, reciprocity, liking, authority, and scarcity. So for a woman in a relationship, the 2 biggest levers that you need to pull are your consistency and liking. She needs to see how consistent new behaviors are proven over time. And she needs to feel that warmth instead of pressure. Again, going back to emotional safety. Only then does system 2 come in and say, oh, you know what? Maybe I should change the story about him. Maybe he is the hero of my life. Maybe he is making these changes. But you attack system first or change that through your actions. One famous experiment really highlighted this. Researchers asked homeowners to sign a small card supporting safe driving, okay? And then weeks later, those same people were far more likely to allow a massive drive sign in their lawn. Now, why is this? Because once they made a small identity consistent step, their mind aligned with a bigger change, okay? Your wife is the same way. When she sees these micro consistent changes in you, the way you react to her, we'll share all the behaviors later on, she'll start to allow bigger steps forward or investments of you to her again. You see how that works? So that her rational mind will find reasons to stay. Think of her mind like a courtroom, if you will, okay? Now, system 1, that's the jury. Right? It makes fast emotional decisions. It has the final say. Or system 2 is the lawyer. It can spend weeks coming up with reasons to defend what the jury already feels. You don't win by arguing with the lawyer. You win by influencing the jury. So stop aiming at logic. Stop using the memories or the promises of the future or the wedding vows or what's best for the children. None of that will ever work. In fact, it actually causes things to shut down even further. All right. For the second principle, we're going to go into why caring less makes her care more. Those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. Dr. Seuss. When I say don't care, you need to care less. Some guys might think, well, should I be callous? Should I act apathetic? That's not what I mean by caring. Okay, so you can care deeply about your wife's well-being, her emotions, and still not care. Let me break this down for you. Let's break it down into proactive care and reactive care. Okay, we want you to proactively care, which means you're going to buy her flowers when you want to. You're going to tell her how much you love her. You're going to listen to her day with full intent and consciousness because you genuinely want to. Reactive care is what we're going to reduce here. Reactive care is attempting to change her perception of you when it doesn't align with your own perception of yourself. Example number one, you come home and she sees a woman tearing your shirt, let's say, for example, right? And she starts indirectly accusing you, or even directly, of getting close to a woman at work and flirting, and she knows the woman who it is, okay? Now, you caring would be you feeling distraught, saying, honey, no, how could you think I would do that? I mean, you're probably wrong, and you freak out, right? Your nervous system becomes dysregulated. You care too much. Not caring through the accusation, but say, I have no idea who that is, sweetheart. The only woman's hair I want on me is yours. Come here. Even if she doesn't react positively, the most important part of this is having your internal state calm. When you're the one begging, explaining, or trying to force an outcome, you put yourself in a weaker frame. Your nervous system is shaky, right? You're no longer the grounded leader. You're supplicating to her. Your nervous system reacts to her system. Okay, you are in reaction. You see how this is all correlated. She feels unsafe and you become unsafe. That means you are not the leader anymore. A woman are biologically wired to test for strength, certainty, and leadership. So every time you push harder to make her see, try to change the way she feels, you're signaling the opposite: weakness, insecurity, desperation. Think of this analogy. Influence is like holding sand in your hand, right? The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. But the looser and more steady you are, it sits there. So the second principle is about stopping trying to convince her. Don't have this reactive care, okay, where you get weak. I'll show you what behaviors to have a stronger frame with to influence her, but just recognize that you must stop getting reactive, okay? So the third principle is about becoming that man of influence. So the first step in becoming less reactive is to disillusion her. And what does this mean? Just like our mind has an amazing ability to make fears worse than they are, don't they, right? You're also telling yourself a lie about what she's really going to give you. Look, I know, having her in your arms again, squeezing you tight, looking up at you and saying how much she loves you, feel like heaven. It's everything you want, but it's not everything. It isn't as fulfilling as you're making it out to be in your mind, okay? I'm not being love's executioner here. I want you to have that. I know you will when you follow the steps, but that's putting her on a pedestal. The way you feel about her is like she's going to complete you, which means you are not full yourself. And that's why you're reactive. Do you see this? The first step, you must disillusion her. What needs is she actually giving you? Do you think she's going to complete you? Do you think that you're never going to have to deal with struggles again? Your mind is creating this false pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. That once you get her back, whatever that means, then you have her and you're good and you're safe and everything's okay. That is never the case, okay? Just like with your health. You're never, I'm fully healthy and I'm never going to be unhealthy again, right? You have to constantly take vigilant action in order to have that security in yourself, in your health. It's the same thing with the woman in your life. You never fully have her. You're never fully happy. Yes, you have moments of it, and then she's going to test you again. I talk about this a lot, and I'll give you the testing video at the end of this one. But just know that when you remove the illusion, the veil behind what she's actually giving you, yes, it would feel nice, but it is not everything. I mean, how often have you achieved something in your life and you thought it was like the grand, if I can get this job, this promotion, if I can make this much money per year, I'll be happy when? It's the same thing with her, except for when you do it with a person, you're putting her on that pedestal again. You are making her stronger. You are the weaker man. So you must bring her back down to your level. Now, the second step after you remove her down off the pedestal, and by the way, this is talking about pedestal. The next time you're talking to her and you find her like, I need something, if you're that neediness, visualize in your head that she's on this pedestal and imagine her coming down to your level. This is based in neuro-linguistic programming, which means what you see and what you feel are correlated. So create that vision in your mind where she's no better than you, no worse. She's just a human being that wants love, and you're a human being that wants love, okay? Now, again, the next step is identify why she actually left you. This is where I would say most of the men will mess up because your ego is going to get in the way. A lot of guys, they think, well, but she has mistakes and all this, and they make the excuses. If that's not you and you recognize, oh yeah, I know, Josh, I know where I messed up, trust me, that's great. But I would still challenge you a little bit because a lot of men are actually blind to either the depth of those behaviors, or they take what she says at face value. There's actually things underneath what she's actually saying. As an example, She may have called you controlling. And you're like, okay, I can see why she called me controlling. But really that control is actually a covert control. So a lot of men who've been called controlling, right? What they'll do is they'll let her make decisions more. But that's not what she really means. And you see how based on what she's saying is not actually what she means. This is why we have our whole program. This is why I've spent over a decade studying this stuff. Okay, so if you want to identify quickly, automatically, these are the exact behaviors that you must fix. This is where setting up our call with our marriage evaluators comes in. So right now you can click the link down below, set up a free call with our team to make sure you're fully committed. Let's continue. Once you identify the core beliefs or core things and parts of yourself that have pushed your way over the years, you're going to connect those behaviors to saboteurs. Now, saboteurs comes from the idea of positive intelligence. It's a modality that identifies 9 different types you have. Okay. Now it's a free assessment. You just type in positive intelligence assessment and you can take a free assessment and see what your saboteurs are. Now we use this framework within our own program to help really guide our coaches say, oh, this is your saboteur. These are the behaviors that are going to help overcome it. These are the things that we've seen thousands of clients use to reduce that score, to improve yourself. And so you can have an objective measure over like, oh, these are the things that push my wife away. I'm a victim. I'm a pleaser. Okay. And when you're able to do that, you can automatically see the results, not just with your wife, but literally on paper. And let's go over an example of this so you really understand the power, okay? Back in my old days, my pleaser was the highest. Now it's my hyperachiever. I'm own business, work, you get it, okay. The thing about saboteurs, your mind thinks that those things are actually good for you, right? So let's say you were a pleaser at the highest and you had to develop that pleaser like myself, let's say because you had a controlling father and you saw that I don't want to be like my father because my father caused a lot of trauma to me. So I'm going to be nothing like him. But what happened is that you threw the baby out with the bathwater. You told yourself, I can only get love when I do things, when I have to constantly check and make sure she's happy because I saw the pain my mother went through with my father when he was a complete a-hole or he was super selfish. So I'm going to be the opposite of that. And this is all a subconscious learning that you have as a child. So when you're able to identify those behaviors and that saboteur in yourself, you can have a framework to how to overcome it. Now, when I say throw the baby out with the bathwater, here's what I mean. So yes, your father may have been super controlling or very selfish, but there's also positivity in that. You see what I mean? Yes, the pleaser, it can really understand people's emotions and it can always be there meeting other people's needs. But the other side of that coin with the pleaser is that you don't have self-respect and therefore no one respects you. Now, in this example with your father who was controlling and very selfish, he may have been called an a-hole at times and mom was really frustrated, but she respected him. You see what I mean? That's what I mean by throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Oftentimes we completely abandon a lot of the positive sides that we label these negative sides of. One final example to really prove this point. So mine, right? I'm the hyperachiever. I pour myself into my work. It's the majority of my life. The positive side of that is I can provide for my family, right? I can do that and it's amazing. And I also have respect and admiration from the woman I'm with. However, the downside of that is oftentimes I'm distracted when I'm with her, right? I'm thinking about work. I'm sure you can relate to this. So I want you to see when you have those scores, there is a negative side of it that you need to find balance in. Now, how do we find that balance? Well, that is the 4th step. Now, our coaching methodology and our coaching calls, we're able to help the clients identify the root source of where that saboteur was developed. And that's what really immediately pulls it out if you go through coaching. But the other way to do this is to really create 180-degree actions. It's pretty simple. So look, like as an example with me, I struggle to I would work 7 days a week if I could, right? I force myself, no working on Saturdays. And at 7 p.m., I don't care what project I'm doing, I'm done for the day. I have to force myself to do that. And it teaches me to be okay. My emotions follow my actions. So now over the years that I've been forcing myself to actually take a day off, my brain's like, well, I guess if we take a day off, we're not super hyperachiever, that everything's going to be okay. And through these 180-degree actions, what I've done is I've taught myself to be more okay, not working all the time. You see how that works? So with the pleaser example, because I know many of you are pleasers like my past self, what you would do is you just learn to have a boundary with your wife. Learn to say no, right? Feel that like, oh, this doesn't sit right with me. And then normally I would go away from conflict, but this time I'm actually going to step into it. And taking those consistent actions over time will start to change, reduce your score of the saboteur and change your results with your wife. Not just with your wife, I mean, just in life in general. Now I want to end this by saying your wife is not obsessed with divorce, okay? She's obsessed with certainty. Women crave emotional safety above all else. You can start to see through the matrix, literally, like every complaint she had, it all comes back to her feeling safe, right? She needs you to lead. She needs you to protect her. She needs you to be stable in who you are. She needs you to be consistent with your actions, thoughts, and emotions, right? That positive masculinity is what causes her to be safe. And when she feels safe consistently, she will fall into her feminine frame. So I want you to recognize that, yes, you've made mistakes over the years with her. Okay, that's fine. That's fine because you can now have the opportunity. This is a wake-up call for you to start to make these changes, to say, you know what, I'm going to be a better man. I'm going to do something different because I want to. Right? I've been sleeping, I'm being complacent, I've taken things for granted. And now I'm being not punished, but I'm being woken up from this. And so this is your opportunity to make the change, okay? You can make it through our team by setting up a free call down below, of course, but at least do something different. Follow the framework consistently over time and you will see results. Here's the video on testing I talked about before. And here's also our ERM video. It's our ERM method. It's our main method we use. There's a big breakdown, amazing video on the channel about that as well. Click on one of these, set up a call with our team. I'll see you in the next video.